Hello everybody and welcome back to Top 5 Scary. Today we've got another SCP montage for you, the third and possible final montage. That's right, SCP monsters that can never escape. We are up to date when it comes to this one, so enjoy. Watch me age over the last few months running up to this date and see if I look any happier or sadder or scarier. I don't know. Let me know what you think about the SCPs. Let me know if you guys want more SCP monsters that can never escape. Enjoy. From haunted grocery stores to metal-making viruses, there are enough SCPs out there to overload even the most disaster-minded brains. And the thing is, there are more being thought up every day. In the SCP universe, thinking something up and writing it down is basically akin to making it real. This is worrisome, to say the least. Sure, they're all hypothetically contained and secured, but how many can really be considered safe? Euclid and Keter are so much more common, and even if something is safe, as soon as it's out of containment for whatever reason, it can resume causing all sorts of trouble and torment. It's like a cross between a can of worms and a can of whoop-ass. You don't want it open. Hello horror heads and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we'll be counting down the top 5 SCP monsters that can never escape, part 17. Before we begin, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more digital demons and dirtbags. Perfect, let's get going. Coming in at number 5, we've got SCP-217. In keeping with the general vibe of the entire world right now, let's discuss a virus. Yeah, bummer, I know. But 217 is a very interesting infectious individual. Can I call a virus an individual? Well, let's just keep moving. This is an incurable virus with an infectivity rate of 100%, spreading through touch or contact with bodily fluid. Thankfully, or not so thankfully, the progression is quite slow. Sometimes it takes years for symptoms to become noticeable, although by the time they show up, it's beyond disastrous, but we'll get there in a moment. This virus doesn't work in any conventional way. It doesn't raise body temperatures or hijack the respiratory system. No, it turns all organic matter into organic metal, turning subjects into gears and clockwork systems. But they don't just fall apart or turn into robots. Instead, these newly developed metal parts take over the operation of organs and other bodily functions. Early stages of this transformation are mostly unnoticeable, accompanied by vague feelings of confusion, insomnia, and joint stiffness. Internal organs seem to change fast. Hearts are replaced by gears and small tubes, joints become geared networks, eyes work similarly to hand crank cameras. Eventually the whole body is converted and outward visible symptoms appear last. Apparently this is very painful in the late stages, not something anybody really wants to go through. These physical pains are accompanied by a diminished mental state where the subject begins responding to stimuli in a repetitive fashion, and they also start acting dull and mechanical. They're easily distracted, confused, and generally irritable when faced with new problems. Kinda like me on lockdown. Maybe I'm turning into metal. For those familiar with the Church of the Broken God, you probably already recognize a lot of this stuff. McCain's blood, baby, lots of it. Coming in at number 4, we've got SCP-1110. The perfect robbery is one that can never be traced. So I suppose SCP-1110 has been pulling off some flawless crimes for a while now. This is a series of phenomena that seems to only appear on security footage at banks and other similar financial institutions. In the footage, 2 humanoid entities wearing face coverings and dark clothing can be seen entering a financial institution brandishing guns in a threatening manner. Aggressive body language, shouting, all the hallmarks of a good caper. They approach the teller, moving as bank robbers do, and demand that some funds be deposited in their suitcase. In the video, the teller complies and carefully hands over the guap. Once the exchange is complete, the 2 covered criminals leave the building with their briefcase full of bills. The thing is, none of this actually happens. Even though footage exists of all of it happening, nobody in the building will have experienced anything close to what was captured. Customers, tellers, managers, nobody has any recollection of any such events. Business will have continued as per usual during the time in which the robberies apparently occurred. However, even though the robbery itself doesn't seem to happen, the money taken will be missing. That is right. If $100,000 is slapped into the suitcase, it'll be gone without a trace from the vault. Doesn't make any sense, but I guess what SCP does. There have been confirmed cases of objects being stolen too. This is where things get a little wonky though, as most of these items don't disappear the same way as the money does. Instead, things like watches will stop working right at the exact time they were lifted from their rightful owner. Strange. So basically these 2 extra dimensional dudes could bleed the whole world dry and we wouldn't really be able to do anything about it. Although, if all the major banks lost all their money, they'd lose their power and we poors at the bottom could rise up once again. Coming in at number 3, we've got SCP-2446. Who doesn't love a random corpse showing right up in front of them? 2446 is the occasional spontaneous manifestation of humanoid corpses in a 12-kilometer area around San Jose. There doesn't seem to be any time or location restrictions on when these cadavers will pop up, so just be ready to see some dead bodies next time you visit. What am I saying? Of course you're ready to see dead bodies when you visit Florida. As of right now, only 2 have been directly observed manifesting, but there are likely many more undiscovered in less visited areas. Each corpse so far has been found to share physical and genetic profiles with Foundation personnel. Typically, they're agents involved with MTF Lambda 5, or the White Rabbits. In fact, a lot of the time they'll show up in their combat gear, not that it's doing them any good these days. Yeah, putrefying corpses don't benefit much from bulletproof vests and tactical helmets. Multiple duplicates have been found for single agents, although there are often differences in weight, build, and tattoo patterns. It seems that alternate universes are dropping corpses into ours for a currently unknown reason. Something about rabbits and down the rabbit hole, I'm sure. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-3182. Creepy grocery stores should be avoided as a general rule, but this one in Denton, Missouri needs to be left alone forever. Following a severe economic downturn and the unfortunate death of a young employee, some anomalous activity was detected. Every day between 7:52 and 8:52 p.m., a range of strange happenings occur. It's also known as a Demos event. During this time, no outside sources of light will be visible in the store, individuals will be unable to enter or exit the building, and all thresholds will seemingly disappear. Anyone inside the store will experience extreme distress and melancholy, resentment towards Denton, Missouri, recollection of memories belonging to former customers, paranoia about impending danger and a need to do something about it, and a strong desire to leave 3182 even though it is impossible. Add in some severe physical effects like nausea, injury, and sometimes death, and you've got yourself a bad time. All these effects seem to center around aisle 3, so if you're looking for pasta, sauces, and canned goods, maybe try the store a town over, for your own safety. But if you do approach the haunted aisle, you'll be subjected to disembodied moaning and screaming, the appearance of indistinct humanoid figures, and the sounds of heavy objects being dragged across the linoleum. Stick around long enough, and you'll notice some gurgling noises too. Find the source, and you will discover a viscous black liquid that seems to have a mind of its own, or many minds of its own. Analysis has shown that this fluid consists of genetic material matching that of several hundred past and current Denton residents, and they're none too happy to be there. The whole store is like a Midwest pop punk band's worst nightmare. You'll never get out of this town. It's slowly killing you. Nothing but regrets. You should have moved to this city when you had a chance. Cliche, but relatable. And finally, at number 1, we've got SCP-1129. If you'd rather not be stuck in an endless cycle of fear, try your best to avoid this one. It's a weird object of unknown origin that can seemingly flow past anything that gets in its way. But it's not a liquid. Maybe it's a solid? Technically, it's dimensionally fractal, partially existing in a theoretical dimension. Maybe it's sentient, but nobody seems to know. What people do know is that it scares the crap out of them. When any sentient being sees 1129, they enter what is known as Stage 1. This involves their fear reflex kicking into overdrive and then fleeing from it by any means possible. People in Stage 1 ignore obstacles and personal injury. They will run straight through drywall like the Kool-Aid Man if it'll help them get away faster. The fear symptoms will increase in intensity until they manage to put around 25 meters between them and the being. If they can't get out of that range fast enough, it's likely that their symptoms will worsen until they die of a heart attack or something similar. Yikes. Those that do manage to get away, safely or not, will then enter Stage 2. This presents itself as heightened aggression and hostility towards the SCP. They'll describe it as wrong and not the right kind of real and dangerous. They express a strong desire to destroy it, and subjects will try to enlist others to help them on this quest. However, upon seeing 1129 again, they'll revert back to Stage 1 and start to freak out, apparently with no memory of even seeing it before either. This cycle perpetuates ad infinitum. 1.7% of cases enter Stage 3, which is the freezing of all voluntary muscles, and very few recover any ability to move at this point. Amnestics have proven effective at curing Stages 1 and 2, but 3 is forever. And now it seems that even specific knowledge of 1129 can cause Stage 2 to happen. So it's never gonna end, is it? And there you have it. 5 freaky SCPs that I scoured the wiki to find. What'd you think of the list? Any that you already knew about? What lesser known SCPs would you like to hear about in the future? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more rugged ones from the top 5 scary forgotten sci-fi horror movies, part 2. Scully Plays Games says soft pretzels, and if you disagree, you're a heretic. Heresy! I feel like both have merits, but if you're gonna make such a bold statement, I'll give it the nod. Rick C says forgotten can be a positive though, like when your friend has completely forgotten something you did that gives you all the shame. Let's be real, there's probably a reason your friend is forgetting too. Plus, for every embarrassing thing you did, they likely had an equally shameful act. Guibox3 says, Night of the Creeps is another great movie that is deserving of attention. I hope you make a part 3 that includes it. Classic indeed. Well, if the people demand part 3, who am I to deny them? Otaniesa says, you look like some 80s slasher character. Which one? And James Vance says, y'all at the top 5 are keeping me from going stark raving mad. Thanks and keep it real. I am glad we're buoying your sanity. Keep fighting the good fight out there. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I check out that mysterious noise coming up from the cellar, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more egregious entities. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. The creativity of the writing community on SCP Wiki is seemingly endless, isn't it? My measly 90 summaries of entries is nothing to the over 5,000 unique articles that exist at the current moment. At the end of Series 6, they'll clock in at 6,000, and that's not counting all the SCPs created outside of the boundaries of the official site. Boggles the mind, doesn't it? Well, here's 5 more, my personal number 85 through 90. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're counting down the top 5 scary SCP monsters that can never escape, part 18. Coming in at number 5, we've got SCP-1879. No matter where you're from, or who you know, or what your favorite fast food joint is, there is one fact that we can all agree upon. Door-to-door salespeople are vampires who should be avoided at all costs. Except for the girl guides. Thin mints get you a pass. Considering that 1879 is a non-cookie toting salesperson, he's bad news. 1879 is a phenomenon affecting houses in Washington state. It only affects interior doors, which is a terrifying prospect, and you'll see why in a second. If someone comes within 2 meters of an affected door, they will hear knocking coming from it. This knocking will continue until they answer. So this salesperson's already in your house, and you can't use that door until you deal with what's behind it. When you answer it, you'll be accosted by a male humanoid trying to sell you a product. And the product in question is always vastly different and kind of weird. It's not very often that it's something anybody wants or needs. He'll dramatically explain the purpose and appeal of his wares, often while cornering whoever was unfortunate enough to find them in their home. His explanations are not often effective, and his sales pitches usually use underhanded techniques. Once he's explained all he needs to explain, he'll offer a price. But the price never really consists of money. No, it's usually something detrimental to the health of the subject. And if you don't accept and buy right away, he will raise that price. Talk about a hack. 1879 is so persistent that they absolutely refuse to leave you alone until you buy. And sure, you could try to kill him, but he'll just come back later with a vengeance. You might be thinking, well, it can't be that bad, just buy the crap and send him away. Well, you might want to reconsider your purchase depending on the price. One pitch was to sell a red rose, with the price being your heart. When purchased, he takes your entire cardiovascular system. Whoops. For the price of some sugar, sweetie, 220 bananas could be yours. But now all the candied goods in your house are gone, and you're stuck with Donkey Kong's banana stash. Now, one sale was particularly strange. He sold a thermonuclear explosive for the price of his customer's soul, but he only took their Aretha Franklin albums. Coming in at number 4, we've got SCP-1057. Scared of sharks? Who isn't? Those things are dead in the eyes, man. Well, what if you can't even see their eyes? Or any of the shark parts one would expect from a shark. Then you're in trouble, aren't you? 1057 is an animate empty space 5 meters in length in the shape of an adult tiger shark. It doesn't appear to have any mass, but it displaces water around it somehow. Thanks to a refractive index approximately that of air, it's partially visible in salt water, and its anti-shadow is visible under bright light. Foundation researchers have done experiments where they inserted objects into its body and found that truly nothing is actually there. These experiments have really pissed off the shark though. It acts more or less like a normal tiger shark, and anything it eats disappears. Originally, it was captured in a public pool after killing 2 swimmers, mutilating a lifeguard, and causing a panic that ended the lives of 5 more. Man, I used to teach swimming lessons, and let me tell you, some kids are afraid of invisible sharks in the water. I just would have never expected to actually get attacked by one. After the attack, a document was found pinned to the pool's bulletin board. It read, "Panic means that the idea of a shark could be more dangerous than an actual shark. It can even be more dangerous than no shark at all. Are we cool yet?" Those damn artists and their pseudo-intellectual shark attacks. Better watch out, better watch your back. Coming in at number 3, we've got SCP-583. While not explicitly dangerous, this SCP would make it impossible to enjoy or understand any media of any type, which is an especially scary prospect for me considering what I do for a living. 583 is a mini DV videotape made of transparent green plastic, also known as "it looks super sick." The first 12 seconds of footage on the tape are blank, and then playback of a recording of Sesame Street Live begins. Oh, the horror. And there's no sound in the recording. Around 3 minutes in, an actor starts choking and tries to get out of his costume. He dies, and then 3 more actors do the same. At 3 minutes and 31 seconds, the recording stops and the rest of the tape is blank. Disturbing, right? Well, the anomalous qualities have yet to show themselves. After watching the tape and viewing the first actor die, viewers will suffer from a perception disorder. To them, every character in every piece of media they consume from then on will die in a similar fashion, through asphyxiation. Everyone chokes and dies within a 3-minute time period, and that 3-minute time period is pretty loose too. Short things like jokes will even be hijacked by a quick and anticlimactic death. Wow. So why did the chicken cross the road? Who cares? Halfway across the road it fell over and choked and died. Imagine living like that. My brain would collapse. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-3887. Remember having an imaginary friend? Well, sometimes they don't go away. 3887 consists of 2 entities, a young woman and her paranormal pal. We'll call them 3887A and B respectively. A is pretty much just a normal human woman, save for the fact that she has a strong emotional attachment to B. B is a grayish-green, horn-headed, yellow-eyed entity with a rat tail and long arms. She's got male and female genitals and feeds on fear, a la Monsters, Inc. Sunlight causes her skin to blister, and her presence disrupts and damages digital recording devices. Essentially, B is a freaky, fear-eating monster that has somehow befriended her supposed prey. The Foundation first discovered this duo after an incident at a party that left a whole lot of folks in need of amnestics. See, during this party, it appears that A's date was humiliating her in front of the guests and acting in a demeaning manner, as was characteristic of their relationship. B did not take kindly to this, and as such manifested under a table and assaulted the date until their limbs were no longer attached to their body. Ouch. This scared the hell out of A and sent her into a state of shock. Following containment, A's fear levels went way down as stresses of daily life seemed to disappear. This caused B to starve to a degree and lash out at Foundation members. Through this, they learned that there are more creatures like B out there, and they're feeding on the fear of children. So I suppose even if B doesn't escape, there's quite a bit to worry about. And lastly, at number 1, we've got SCP-1533. This is a whole collective of entities that do their best to look and act like humans. They manifest at different kinds of social gatherings, from raves to house parties to book clubs. They're not known to organize events that rely on folks already knowing each other, like family reunions or birthdays though. The individuals that make up 1533 have the ability to mimic people they interact with, and these new traits enter a database of sorts which any instance can access. Each instance chooses a personality type and uses the learned behaviors to perform a certain role. Over time, they've become more socially competent and have actually been able to model more persuasive personalities. It appears that there's a natural selection of sorts going on, with good and useful traits sticking around and negative ones being discarded. Through doing this over and over, the group has become very alluring, but dangerous. Beyond just gathering data, 1533 seems to exist just to exercise its power of manipulation on people. By inflicting emotional and physical harm on subjects through the use of charismatic personalities, they seem to compete with one another to see who can emotionally dominate the most event-goers. This could look like challenging a target's self-identity by persuading them to agree with obscene, untenable points of view, or by convincing them to do something embarrassing and then ridiculing them. The more wins they score this way, the more status they seem to have in the 1533 circle. It's a very strange economy, like a big group of mysteriously manifesting con artists who trade in tricking people for fun. I feel like I might have met 1 or 2 of these entities out there. Well, what do you think of the list? Enough variety for you? Are there any SCPs that I've somehow skipped over? What's your favorite lesser known SCP at the moment? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more glassy ones from part 17. Stetton Walters says, has anyone really wondered how the SCP Foundation gets the kind of money and economic connections to do what they do? They spend roughly the same amount of money as what the US Army spends in a year over the span of roughly 5 months. There are a lot of theories about the Foundation's fundraising feats. Some say it's private donors who have the world's best interests at heart, and others say they have an anomalous source of cash. Who knows? Crisp Toast Cat says, I love SCP. They give me nightmares, but it's too awesome. The best things are those that keep you up for 2 reasons. Because they're amazing, you don't want to stop, and they also haunt your dreams. Jackson Blake says, where is Siren Head? Siren Head isn't an SCP, but keep an eye out for a new video about Siren Head soon. Frost Gamer says everybody gangsta until 10,000 voices start laughing. Well, yeah, because at that point you're a successful stand-up comedian. You don't need to trap anymore. Shido Suteshi says, what about the Thamiel class SCPs that we're glad are on our side? That would be super interesting. Interesting and fun. Into the ideas binder it goes. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I try to slap chop a ShamWow, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more anomalous entities. Sometimes it feels like we're the SCP monsters that are stuck in containment, eh? On one hand, we're stuck inside. It's tough, but when was life ever easy? On the other, we're safe and sound from whatever might be lurking the streets, or floating in the skies, or hiding underground. Although I guess if we look at some of the SCPs we're discussing today, we might not be as safe as we assumed. There are plenty of anomalies that can make the mundane positively murderous, so stay sharp or end up as a footnote on some containment procedures. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're going to be counting down the top 5 scary SCP monsters that can never escape, part 19. Before we begin, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more monstrous manglers. Wicked, let's get going. Coming in at number 5, we get SCP-088. We'll kick our list off today with a horrifying reptilian monster that can easily ruin the lives of everyone around it. And no, I'm not talking about the political elite. We're talking about SCP-088. This humanoid with reptilian features was discovered deep underground, surrounded by gold deposits and strange objects. It appears to be mummified in a languid position, but is actually in a state of hibernation. Thanks to its current containment, it will remain as such, but it may recover if exposed to a more hospitable environment. We don't want that happening. See, this thing's around 6,000 years old, and it's capable of secreting all sorts of hazardous biological materials from its mouth and hands. In the 70 years that it's been contained, it has come to life twice, and both times it was able to breach containment by using a caustic fluid that dissolves most minerals and metals. Whatever the substance is, it's dangerous. The Foundation does believe that it has strategic value, but they're not willing to risk waking it up to extract it, and as such, they keep 088 contained. There's another compound that 088 can use that is possibly even more dangerous than the corrosive one. When exposed to this stuff, people undergo painful mutations. They turn into creatures with the same physical characteristics of the beast itself. Some say that it's the creature's method of propagation. Those that received larger doses of the compound mutated faster, and they actually put their safety on the line to protect it itself. So if this thing were to run free, we'd have a lot more indoctrinated lizard people on our hands. Not that such a thing is too uncommon these days, but hey, if we can slow it down, we should. Coming in at number 4, we've got SCP-198. Keep a close eye on your beverage containers, okay? I'm talking about any vessel meant to carry consumable liquids. Seriously, take no chances here, folks. If it feels off, don't try to pick it up. SCP-198 is a beverage container that takes many different forms. People have reported it appearing as a styrofoam cup, a beer bottle, soda cans, shot glasses, a water bottle, and more. Whatever shape it might be, it will also partially be full of whatever you'd expect to be in it. Water in a water bottle, Coke in a Coke can, coffee in a coffee cup. Containment procedures say that it appears to be a white porcelain coffee mug these days with blue vertical stripes. If no one's trying to interact with it, 198 does not exhibit any anomalous behavior. You can even pour stuff into it and nothing odd will happen. However, once a human picks it up, the show starts. After around 2 to 5 seconds, the vessel will instantly bond itself painfully to the person's hand. Folks have described searing, fiery sensations. No heat can be detected though. This happens pretty much no matter what, as long as the subject can get a grip on 198. And gloves don't prevent it from happening, nor does any other sort of protective measure. If someone grabs the cup or bottle or whatever it is in the moment, it will bond on what appears to be the molecular level. And it's permanent too, at least until the death of the holder. Even attempts to cut the cup free have been foiled by instantaneous healing factors presenting themselves to keep the two together. Post-bonding, the liquids previously held in 198 will disappear and be replaced by a very gross fluid or semi-solid. The material will fill up to the very top. Substances vary between people, but there's always some sort of bodily fluid or excretion. Saliva, sweat, blood, bile, mucus, urine, feces, and more. And combinations too. Yikes. Once 198 is full, the person holding it will become dehydrated and emaciated very quickly. Their malnourishment will increase until the point of death, usually over a period of 24 hours. Ingestion of standard food, liquid, and IV drip nutrients won't do anything. It seems the only way to gain nourishment while bonded is by consuming the contents of the container, and I'd rather die. It seems that that's the opinion of many test subjects too. See, the rate of dehydration and emaciation will stay the same even if you're consuming the contents. So subjects must consume plenty of yuck to stay alive. Even the most dedicated slop slurpers usually die after around 70 hours after succumbing to exhaustion or just outright refusing to consume any more. Upon death, the bond is broken and the vessel disappears from their grip. It will reappear on a nearby table or shelf as a different drinking vessel. So, I'll say this once. Watch what you're drinking. Coming in at number 3, we have SCP-5835. It's kind of like having a fairy godparent or a genie to hang out with, except it's the absolute worst and kind of a Welcome to SCP-5835, a tutelary parasite that takes the form of a male domestic canary. You can call it Mr. Cadmium Charleston Conrad Cole the Canary-Colored Canary, Esquire, or just Cadmium for short. This little yellow bird will appear when a human subject expresses a desire to no longer see the color yellow. When this happens, it'll pop up before the subject, remove their ability to see said color, and then disappear. From then on, the subject will only see grays and whites, where yellow used to be. But that's not the end of it, no. See, yellow isn't necessarily necessary for human life. Sure, it's nice to have, but I don't think anybody's life becomes unlivable in its absence. However, after removing it, 5835 will constantly manifest before the subject, harassing them with facts about the color yellow and its apparent importance. It will also generally act in a standoffish manner and cause minor inconveniences to the yellowless person. Sometimes it'll defecate on yellow foods. Other times it'll disappear by exploding, causing damage. This will continue until the subject apologizes or dies. Because of this, there can't be more than one instance existing at one time, which is kind of nice. If one does admit fault and say sorry to Mr. Cadmium, it will needle them with more yellow-tinged facts before begrudgingly accepting the apology. Oh, and he slips in a little lifelong indoctrination to the color yellow in there too, but you know, what that actually means still hasn't been discovered. Good luck if you're ever in that situation. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-072. Remember when you were a kid and tucking your entire body under the covers meant that you were completely safe from any monsters under the bed? Well, there might have been more wisdom in that than you think. SCP-072 is a shadowy, translucent projection that resembles a large hand with fingers that taper to a sharp point. It has only been observed to manifest when a human enters REM sleep in a bed infected by the anomaly while their feet are exposed to open air. Who would actually do this? We may never know. But when somebody meets these requirements, 072 will emerge from the foot of the bed and tap on the person's foot until they're awake. From that moment onward, the subject will basically be subject to sleep paralysis, able to see and experience what's going on, but unable to move. It's at this point that 072 begins to use its pointed fingers to cut portions of flesh away from the subject's exposed feet. With each strip cut away, it will return under the bed and then come out without said collected material. This process will continue until it's taken all of the exposed foot or feet away. Apparently it's very painful, but the paralytic effects prevent people from screaming or calling for help. Even so, this isn't fatal as long as subjects seek appropriate medical care. They will have lifelong psychological damage though. There's more than one bed, too. In fact, any bed within a 10-meter vicinity of one manifesting 072 will also gain an instance. The destruction of infected beds reveals no anomalous materials nor pieces of feet from the victims. And finally, at number 1, we've got SCP-2399. This massive, complex mechanical structure will destroy us all one day. It only seems to be a matter of time. Currently located in Jupiter's lower atmosphere, it is equipped with all sorts of antimatter-based weaponry. It's damaged, but it's been using little drones to repair itself for years. Based on broadcasts picked up from the structure, we can assume that it was coming for Earth with the express purpose of erasing us. However, it collided with one of Jupiter's moons and then found itself unable to escape Jupiter's gravitational pull. Since then, it's been rebuilding, and the rate at which it can do so is increasing. Even though it's damaged, it seems to have a limitless power supply, advanced electromagnetic shielding, matter-disrupting weaponry, and a precise tracking and targeting system. Essentially, the day it can pull itself free of Jupiter's orbit, we're pooched. No human weapons could conceivably affect it at this point. Hypothetically, an extremely large electromagnetic pulse could take it down, but that kind of tech doesn't exist outside of science fiction. Sheesh. Well, we can find some comfort in our inevitable doom, right? Boom. That's the noise we'll make when 2399 gets itself together. It's also the noise I'll use to start this outro. What'd you think of the list? Any of these tickle your fancy? What SCPs should I discuss in the next video? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more methodical ones from the top 5 scary insects more dangerous than murder hornets. Sherio88 says, PhD entomologist here. Did you know that it's thought that Darwin died of complications brought on by Chagas disease from a kissing bug? Also, one of my professors got a botfly on a trip to Costa Rica and let it develop fully in his shoulder. All the grad students got to watch it come out. Oof. I watched a few botfly extractions while researching that video, and let's just say it changed me. Mig says, others. Avengers Infinity War is the most ambitious crossover event in history. Keegan, hello horror heads and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Life's Biggest Questions. Now you all know my deepest, darkest secret. I've got an alter ego, your voice in the void. Demonheart13 says, I once stepped into 3 consecutive red ant hills that were in my aunt's backyard. I stepped on one, and in my panic to get inside, I stepped on the one beside it and a smaller hidden one on the way. Surprisingly, I wasn't stung, but I attribute that to jumping directly into the shower fully clothed. Lucky you. I actually got bit on the eye by a red ant once when I was in the shower. Apparently it had been hanging out in my hair until I turned on the tap, at which point it crawled onto my face. Emily Banks says, Chungus disease. I just wanted everyone to see this. Thanks. Dark507 Deer says, can I get a shout out? You absolutely can. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I ride my bike off a cliff without ET in the basket, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more horrific hellspawn. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. There are plenty of anomalies that can make the we're talking about SCP-00 biological hazards. Shoot. Oh, and he slips in a little lifelong indoctrination to color yellow too. They will have lifelong silence. Since then, it's been rebuilding at the rate in which we It's also the news I'll use to, oh my god. Sherio88 says PDA 3 consecutive red hill. Why can't I read? And in my panic to get inside, I stepped on one and why can't I speak today? I'm so tired. Stop. Wow. 20 editions of our SCP list. Who would have thunk? We've seen all sorts of crazy SCPs in the days gone by. Horses at terminal velocity, bugs that cause more trouble than they're worth, angry, dangerous humanoids in all flavors, and more. And to think we haven't even scratched the surface. By the end of this episode, we'll have listed 100 SCPs, which when measured against a total of somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000, doesn't seem like all that much. But hey, we shouldn't be counting the monsters that we've taken a look at, we should be counting the friends we've made, and sometimes lost, along the way. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the Scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're going to be counting down the top 5 scary SCP monsters that can never escape, part 20. So buckle up and maybe put a helmet on, because you never know what's lurking right around the corner. Before we get going, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more cranium cramping creatures. Outrageous, let's begin. Kicking us off at number 5, we've got SCP-4458. Sharks. Love them or hate them, you gotta admit they're pretty wicked. Underwater killing machines with dead eyes and a need to constantly swim forwards, these big fish are a force to be reckoned with. It makes sense that there are countless shark movies floating around out there, with a week of dedicated programming on the Discovery Channel to boot. By and large, folks have a relatively good handle on how to deal with sharks though. There might be an accident or two from time to time, but we've mitigated shark danger pretty much entirely. Too bad this shark has the perfect way to increase shark-based fatalities. 4458 is a great white shark that can change its size at will. It's been measured from 10 nanometers to a full 14 meters long. Sure, it might not be so dangerous at nano levels, but as a tiny shark, 4458 can get to places that full-size predators cannot. It's super hostile towards humans too. This size-shifting shark will actively seek people out in their homes. There have been multiple reports of it entering households through water faucets after shrinking down to smaller size, and then growing to full size once indoors. Imagine taking a shower and then all of a sudden a great white materializes from your faucet. You'd be experiencing the inside of a fish belly in an instant. Once 4458 devours its prey, it will return to a smaller size and exit the way it came in. Sometimes, though, the entrance method is no longer viable. No worries for this aquatic attacker, though. It has a backup plan. If it can't find a way out immediately, it will often open toilet seats or turn on showers using its abilities before making an escape. The shark was captured by the Foundation around 2 years ago and has been in containment since. Oddly enough, it hasn't eaten a single thing since being contained. Some think it doesn't need food and just ate humans for fun. Others think it was able to find another source of nourishment. Coming in at number 4, we've got SCP-426. I am a toaster. Well, not me specifically, but supposedly this SCP makes anyone who mentions it speak about it in the first person. Nobody's been able to read or speak about it in the third person, so its containment procedures read like a personal anecdote from your favorite sentient kitchenware. The self-referential writing is only the beginning when it comes to 426's anomalous qualities. These anomalies were first discovered by the original owners of the toaster, who had received it as a wedding gift. If anyone remains in close proximity with it for more than 2 months, they begin to legitimately identify as a toaster. It's all fun and games at first, but folks always seem to take it too far. It's very rare that someone does not accidentally harm or kill themselves in an attempt to act like a bread braiser. The Foundation discovered 426 in the home of the original owners, who had all died gruesome deaths. One person perished due to electric discharge given off by a socket. They had been trying to eat it. Another died as a result of their stomach rupturing. They had been eating bread nonstop for hours. A third left our worldly plane after attempting an unnameable act with the implement, resulting in severe blood loss. There was only one survivor of this house of toasted bread, but they were extremely malnourished. They had inserted a piece of bread a week ago and were waiting for it to pop out. Something wrong with the spring mechanism, I suppose. The Foundation has been testing the effects on D-class subjects with similar results. So even if you get a little snacky, maybe stick to the microwave fare for a while. Coming in at number 3, we've got SCP-2315. As most of us know, we should probably call our mothers more. It's a busy world out there, we've got lots to do. But if you're lucky, your mom loves and supports you in whatever you do. Sometimes these phone calls can be tricky to navigate though, especially if they're coming from an untraceable source that sounds exactly like our mother but isn't. 2315 is a seemingly ordinary iPhone 6, no lock code, no password. It will function normally until placed in a room with a person under 30 whose mother is still alive. At this point, the phone will ring and the caller ID will display mother. If a sub-30 mother haver answers, they'll hear a voice that sounds exactly like their mom's. They're able to converse freely with the other mother. Certain subjects will then get more phone calls at a rate of 1 per day. Uneasiness will increase with each call. The first call will be uneventful, with the mother thing being disapproving but supportive. The second call will involve the mom 2.0 talking about distressing topics and becoming more hostile throughout the call. Third call will always be hostile and aggressive, with yelling, screaming, and requests that the subject perform dangerous activities. This will continue until the subject hangs up or expires, and the latter is more likely than you think. Mothers can be very persuasive. At one point, this character encouraged a subject to drop pentagrams in his own blood until he died. Nobody's quite sure what the goal is at this point. Is it devil-ridden? Infovorous? Simply sadistic? Coming at number 2, we've got SCP-4349. Some good old Dr. Fungus. Wait, let me explain. This is a fungus that infects humans and affects their brain function. Usually it'll alter brains in areas associated with memory and personality. There are 3 stages to this alteration and a 4th that comes and goes. Stage 1 happens around 3 days after infection. It presents itself as a mild fungal infection with symptoms like headaches, nausea, and avoidance of light. Next up is stage 2, which lasts for a couple days after stage 1, where these symptoms disappear and the infection appears to clear up naturally. Then stage 3 begins. The infected individual will start to forget their identity, replacing traits with qualities and mannerisms taken from famous doctors in film and television. If you watch a lot of Grey's Anatomy, you might channel like Dreamy, and if you prefer your doctors with a limp, you might find yourself acting like Dr. House. Infected folks also become active biohazards. At this point, they'll seek out a medical facility and start working as if they'd been employed there for a while, impersonating medical professionals. What a fungus. The fake doctors will start to steal medical equipment and take patients in order to keep up the facade as well. However, their medical knowledge will be no greater than it was before the infection, so they don't often provide effective treatment. Spores are emitted in low dosages at this point, causing mild psychological effects in folks nearby. Thanks to this, nobody seems to question the very questionable quacks. Stage 4 is known as the diagnostic phase, where our fungus friends will fixate on a particular patient. They'll run all sorts of random tests on them while emitting a larger volume of spores. This special patient might be cured and they might not. If they survive, they'll be infected by the spores and become a Dr. Fungus themselves. And if they don't, they die. Either way, the good doctor will then return to stage 3 until they find their next special patient. And finally, at number 1, we've got SCP-3402. This is a very strange phenomenon you probably don't want to get caught up in. See, sometimes a bunch of humanoids will appear in Upper Louisiana. Each one appears to be an average young white-collar worker, business suits, leather shoes, the works. Most folks would want to avoid these dudes anyway, but it's especially important in this case. They'll follow the road they materialize on looking for a way to leave, like a gate or a gap in the fence. If they're successful in finding this diversion, they'll walk along for another 3 kilometers or so. Once they're done traveling, they'll begin tearing strips of flesh off each other using their teeth and fingernails. This appears to be very painful, but they don't ever attempt to defend themselves. Once fatal damage has been inflicted, they will ignite and burn up, often causing a chain reaction between all of them. If any non-anomalous humans fit the white collar profile, they'll usually feel compelled to join in. And you don't even need a white collar if you witness the final stage of this strange ceremony. Laying eyes on the stripping of flesh means that you've just been selected to have your skin removed. So if you scope any business bros strolling the back roads in Louisiana, get the heck out of Dodge. 100. Seems like a lot, doesn't it? Well, here's to 100 more. What's your favorite SCP? Got any suggestions for further Foundation fun? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more holistic ones from the top 5 scary demon games you should never play. Jason Oshman says, so wait, I'm trying to understand why some folks would actually do this. Well, most folks get cocky and want to prove it all wrong, and then they summon a demon and become the first person to die in a movie. Rebecca Chun says, stare into the darkness until 4:34 a.m. Dude, that is every day. I mean, you're playing demon games with pomp and circumstance. Sean Steele says all these games seem like, ugh, such a chore. I don't know if I've ever heard of a quick and easy ritual, but hey, maybe you can summon some low-tier demons by playing less intensive games. Lydia Selden says, hypothetically, if you did these and no entities responded, what could I do to help it succeed? More blood. Always more blood. And Robert Boy says, a game that you should never play is Uno. You will deal with lots of hardships if you play it. Yeah, Uno is one of those games that people walk away from totally changed, usually for the worse. That's all the time we have for today. Before I take in a free screening at the Metropole, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more monster mashing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Jason Oshman says, so wait, I'm trying to understand why someone would actually do this. Well, I mean, most folks who do get cocky and want to prove it all wrong, and then they summon a demon and become the first person to die in the movie. And the hose is running, so I'll probably do that one again. More blood. Always more blood. Really? We did it. 100 SCPs. I feel like I ran a marathon or something. Do I get a special ribbon? Maybe they'll let me be a D-class test subject for fun. Either way, we're gonna have to keep this going on forever and ever, I guess. I might even become anomalous at this point. It's a sacrifice I am willing to make for all of you. What's 9 plus 10? Hello, horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're taking a look at the top 5 scary SCP monsters that can never escape, part 21. Coming in at number 5, we've got SCP-667. One off from 666. Being that close to devilry can't be good for anyone. No demons or Lucifer Juniors here though, just some real deadly vines and the fairies who love to feed them. 667 is a symbiotic pairing between two anomalous species, a colony of flowering vines known as 667-1 and a species of flying insect humans known as 667-2. The vines are the big bads here, resembling kudzu plants, but growing way faster. However, they need a steady source of nutrition to keep this accelerated growth up, and they're not looking for just water and sunshine either. After laying roots pretty much anywhere, they can grow over 2.5 meters per day. The fuel behind said rapid expansion? Large mammals, humans included. If the vines come across any immobile animal, whether they're sleeping, paralyzed, or dead, they will grow around and through them. It can get pretty gruesome. Ever read The Ruins? Kind of like that. To make matters worse, a lot of creatures find it impossible to avoid the deadly plants. You would think that you could just walk away from them and everything would be okay, but that's where 667-2 comes in. These tiny little fairy things fly around in hypnotic swarms. Anyone or anything that looks at the firefly-like congregations will enter a trance of sorts and follow the fairies back to the vines. Once mesmerized, people will just sit and watch these things until they die of dehydration or vine disembowelment. A whole lot of folks went missing in a short time in the area, leading the Foundation to take action. What they found was pretty disturbing. They can't really get rid of everything or relocate all the plants and fairies, so they just set up a perimeter and are hoping nothing gets out. Coming in at number 4, we got SCP-1875. I never thought a chess-playing automaton might be terrifying, but here we are. This Victorian-era machine is made up of 4 parts: a steel chessboard table, complete with drive shaft and electromagnets, an entire chess set carved from human bones, a steam engine meant to spin the drive shaft, and a suit of creepy samurai armor that acts as a performance prop. Of course, human bone chess pieces are pretty gnarly, but it doesn't stop there. The bones seem to belong to the twin daughters of a Russian chess prodigy, and the drive shaft seems to be connected to a partially biological system that runs on these same twins' brain tissue. Oof. The automaton plays chess pretty well and even has 5 settings to compete with. As the levels go up, so does this machine's chess-playing acumen. However, when researchers cranked it up to level 5, strange things started happening. The metallic game players started making illogical and illegal moves at that point, even damaging some of the pieces while performing them. This prompted the researchers to shut it down for the time being. After the shutdown though, everyone involved received an email from an unknown source. Included in the message was an image file portraying 2 girls with distorted faces and an executable file in Russian that seemed to impart anomalous mimetic effects on the picture. The longer a person looks at this photo, the more strange symptoms crop up. At first, they'll feel mild anxiety. At 15 minutes, headaches and elevated body temperatures are reported. 2 hours in, people will feel restless and suffer from insomnia and hallucinations involving childlike laughter. 7 hours after exposure, the subject will be conscious but unresponsive, and at 11 hours, they will appear to have a moment of lucidity when they ask to use the computer with which the image was accessed. 12 hours in, and they begin to self-mutilate, and at 14, well, that's redacted. All I wanted was to play some chess with undead Russian geniuses. Is that too much to ask? Coming in at number 3, we've got SCP-3922. This SCP is kind of like an anomalous content filter that ruins anything that you try to watch. Well, anything depicting crime or immoral behavior, which is the only kind of content worth watching anyways. 3922 is a metallic cylinder with 3 moons engraved on the side, described as some kind of morality filter for TV by the original owner selling it at a garage sale. If you put it near a TV or computer, it will alter all of the media played through the devices. Usually this means inserting new characters wearing padded combat uniforms and gas masks. These additional actors will take it upon themselves to prevent and punish any crime that might be committed. The severity of this punishment tends to reflect the rating of the media. If it's G-rated, somebody might get arrested or restrained. If it's R-rated, you might get some flesh mulching followed by forced auto-cannibalism. Really, it's a toss-up. They'll also take the form of whatever media that they're in, appearing to be animated in whatever style the world around them is. All things considered, these moon riot police just ruin everything and anything. In Disney's Pinocchio, they show up and arrest all the adults for the various crimes they committed. They even take down the Blue Fairy for unlicensed animation of plant tissue. Pinocchio himself is taken aside and told that real boyhood is subjective. Fascinating watch, of course. Another movie that the Foundation tested was Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. Here we watch the Joker get beheaded before he can do anything, and Batman is arrested for 39 counts of extortion. Exciting. Testing it on Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange, we lose the plot during the infamous break and enter scene, as all the gang members get restrained, brought into an open field, and executed by firing squad. This takes 3 hours, and then the movie ends. Seems like we're missing a lot of the entertainment value here, eh? Anything that is altered by this SCP will end with the title card displaying the 3 moon insignia and a message reading, "You are watched, you are protected, you are loved." Which is nice and all, but sometimes I just want to watch some lunatics running around being terrible. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-578. You've heard of blood diamonds, but wait until you see blood opals. Yeah, these aren't mined from the earth at great human expense. They're made of actual human blood. 578 itself is a colorless, odorless liquid consisting of water, silicon, and an unknown enzyme. It acts up when put in contact with human blood. The liquid will spread through the red stuff by way of rapid diffusion and cause a clotting cascade. This results in the crystallization of the blood. I would recommend only doing this to blood that is outside of the body, as letting it touch blood that is still circulating around would be pretty catastrophic. There's a crystallized cardiovascular system somewhere out there, and I don't want to think about how that came to be. Once the blood hardens, it results in a bright red opalescent stone. They can be handled without protective gear, as it seems that only the liquid on its own will cause anomalous effects. Apparently the solution was engineered by Marshall, Carter, and Dark with the express purpose of designing luxury jewelry. Gross. They claim that they have an aura of rejuvenation and regeneration and make a perfect gift. Tell me, does anyone want crystallized blood as a necklace or a ring? Actually, knowing most folks, is probably in pretty high demand. And finally, at number 1, we've got SCP-354. Another very red SCP. This blood pond doesn't actually have anything to do with blood. It just looks like it. The Foundation has a tight perimeter surrounding this pool of red liquid in northern Canada. Every once in a while, strange entities will emerge from the fluid and try to escape. Most of these creatures are violent and dangerous. Many different accounts have been given with a wide variety of shapes and sizes emerging. There was a giant bat, a bear-sized echidna, a 5-meter humanoid reptile, and even octopus tentacles that pulled D-class subjects into the pool. Most of these things were bulletproof and took a lot of effort to control, let alone take down. One particularly interesting instance involved 2 feline-like creatures emerging, one made of ice and one made of magma. The ice cat was eventually destroyed by the magma one, which then cooled down and became a hardened statue of sorts. For a while, the Foundation relied on Able to fight and neutralize a lot of these creatures coming out, but eventually they just resorted to covering the pool with a big concrete slab. After a long period of inactivity, they sent a team to drain the pond. The people found themselves unable to drain it, claiming that it wouldn't let them. They reported back that the pool was growing, and it was mad. I wonder what'll crawl out of the ooze next. Holy moly, let's not let these guys roam free. Or fall into the hands of the general public if it's not sentient. Keep up the good work, eh folks? What did you think of the list? Which SCP is your favorite? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more slobbery ones from the top 5 Siren Head games that will terrify you. Burrito Rico says, everybody gangsta till you hear your dad saying, son, I have milk in the woods. The milk isn't so scary. If he had cigarettes, that'd be a whole other story. Hatil says Siren Head dating sim sounds like a good way to get tetanus. Only if you let Siren Head touch you. If you take him on a nice, pure first date, there won't be any trouble. XX Fallen Angel 1 asks, is it strange these videos help me sleep? Maybe just a little considering the subject matter, but I'm glad our content soothes your soul. Raquel Patterson says, hey Keegan, there are river sharks. Bull sharks. You weren't lying. True, I hadn't thought of that, although I doubt we would have seen any bull sharks in rural Ontario. David R says, Jaws. Da-da. Da-dum. That's all the time we have for today. Before I fire a Springfield across the Midland City skyscape, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more infinite insanity.